Let's do it.
Rob Parker, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Great, great.
Great. Hey, appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, so really grateful that you were able to join us tonight. All right, let's get started. Let's talk some NFL football. Um, we're almost halfway through this NFL season. Who's impressed you the most?
Who's impressed me the most? Well, it was Russell Wilson up until the last game, in that he has the worst defense in the league, and they were undefeated. Until he had a really bad game against the Cardinals, 3 interceptions. But he definitely was in the clubhouse with the lead as far as MVP to start. He was playing phenomenal with the worst defense, and they were still winning games. So I thought Russell Wilson was. Aaron Rodgers has had a great bounce back season. I'm talking about quarterbacks. Obviously they were 13-3 last year, and they lost in the NFC Championship game. But Aaron Rodgers came out with a chip on his shoulders, played well, just had the bad game in Tampa, and bounced back with 4 touchdowns last week in Houston. So he's playing real well. And then Tom Brady has bounced back after a shaky start. Of course, having the big win against the Packers, and then last week against lowly Denver. So they're in a good spot, and we're almost at the halfway point.
Who's been your biggest disappointment so far?
I just think not quarterbacks, but just teams. I mean, the Jets and Giants are pathetic. I mean, when I look at it, I just can't believe how bad they are. And the Jets, somehow last year, Adam Gase and the Jets won 7 of their final 9 games. I didn't expect them to take a step back like this and be in the lottery for the first overall pick. I think it's embarrassing. And even the Giants, I think 4 of their games, they didn't score a touchdown in 4 of their games this year. And Danny Dimes looks like Danny Pennies. And you try to figure out like where they're going, home dinner, maybe a show, but they look awful as well. So the 2 New York football teams are awful.
All right, thank you, Rob.
Hey, hey, how you doing, Rob? Man, I still can't believe we got you on. I hope you're doing all right. Thanks for coming on.
Doing great. No problem, my man. All good.
Hey, man, I've been a big fan of yours for a while, and I'm a big sports debate, sports talk guy. I mean, I remember watching you on ESPN First Take with Stephen A. and on FS1 on Fox Sports with Skip and Shannon. I want to speak about what is it like working with Skip and Shannon? Like, I mean, what is it just being around them?
Yeah, both of those guys are great, and obviously they come from 2 different perspectives. Skip is in the business, a journalist like I am, and worked all over the country. Like his career is incredible because he covered the Cowboys when they were, winning the dynasty, winning 3 out of 4. He worked in Chicago during Michael Jordan's run. He worked in the Bay Area when Barry Bonds was going crazy with the home. I mean, when you start to think about Cowboys, Jordan, and Barry Bonds, that's pretty impressive. So from his standpoint, and I've learned a lot. I've been working with Skip since the old ESPN show called Cold Pizza in New York City. Skip and I first started working together in 2006. So we got a long history, and I worked with him at ESPN, at First Take. And then when he came out here to LA and to start Undisputed, he wanted me to join the show. So, it's been a long road with Skip, and I appreciate him. And Shannon, I really didn't know. I used to watch him on CBS during the football stuff. And, a lot of people weren't sure in the beginning whether or not he'd be able to, step outside of football and really be a credible voice. And he's done a great job. He works really hard. He's well prepared. So, it's a pleasure being up there with those guys.
And we can't talk FS1 if I don't mention my main man, Colin Cowherd, man. I'm a big shout out to Colin. I'm a big Colin Cowherd guy. Is he as funny as he is when he's on TV, man?
Yeah, Colin is another guy, just a pro's pro. I love being on that show with him. He loves when I'm on and I'm able to push back. I mean, he's not one of these guys who wants a yes guy to just come on and agree with all his takes. So he loves the give and take. I love the give and take with him. I can make him laugh. He's always asking me about my clothes I'm buying on sale all over the country. My $39 sport coats and whatnot. So it's fun to be on the herd.
Appreciate it, Rob.
Yep.
Hey Rob, this is Jerry here in Texas, man. We listen to you too. So I got a couple questions for you. So like when I was doing my homework on you, obviously I was able to see, and we had a little powwow right before, right? But it's kind of hard to prepare for someone like you as far as bringing on the show and having the right kind of questions. But you have your own podcast out there, right? It's with the Chris Broussard, right? Bro-
Chris Broussard, right? It's the Odd Couple.
the odd the
So
odd
the
yeah
radio show with the podcast. Then I
yeah.
have another all baseball podcast called Inside the Parker. And then I have a football podcast with TJ Hushmanzada called the Lemon Pepper Parlay Podcast.
Wow.
I
Man,
got a lot of stuff going on.
man, shout out to TJ. He was on the show not about a week or two about 2 weeks ago actually. So
He's a
shout
great
out.
guy. No, he knows football. I love talking football with him. He educates me every time we do a show together.
So just to add that to it, right? So like, what is your niche, right? Because it was kind of hard, like for me personally, like I usually come in very prepared with all the guests, right? I try to know as much about them that they don't even know sometimes, you know. So what is your niche? Like, what is it that drives you to do this? Is it football, or is it the team building, or is it the superstars? I mean, what is it that you bring to every show, every podcast that you do?
Well, first of all, I'm a baseball guy. Baseball is my number one. I'm a Hall of Fame voter. I
Oh,
vote
wow.
for Barry Bonds. I vote for Roger Clemens every year that they've been on the ballot. I voted for Mark McGwire. I voted for Sammy Sosa. I think these guys are getting a raw deal, so I vote for those guys. But I've been covering the NBA since 1987 and the NFL since 1987. In fact, I covered my first World Series was 1986 when the Mets beat the Red Sox in 7 games. I covered that. I was 22 years old back then. So I've been around sports for a long time, covered a lot of big games. But for me, being a sports writer first and then branching out to radio and television, it's more about just my passion for the game and to talk about it and to predict it. I eat it. I love it. I've been doing it for 35 years. There's not one day I wake up and go like, I don't want to do this or I'm bored or anything. There's so many good stories and things to talk about. So I'm just passionate about it and I have an opinion. And if I can give you guys any advice, it's about that. Don't play the middle of the road. So many guys want to play the middle of the road. That's not where you want to be. There's nothing, like to just take the safe pick or always like hedge your bet, and all that. Go for it. You know what I mean? If I'm going to say last year when I said LeBron James and the Lakers wouldn't make the playoffs, I'm not hedging my bet. That's all the way in, right? Yeah. I was right. This year, I didn't think they'd win the championship. I thought it would be the Clippers. I was all the way in on the Clippers. I was wrong, but I think people can appreciate when you make your case, stand behind it, do some research, give them some facts to back up your point of view, and just go with it.
So that's a great segue to my next question, actually. So I'm going to give you a scenario right here. And if you can, it's going to come out with a question in the end. So let's just say somebody's writing a book about Rob Parker, because look, there has been some controversy with you and certain players and some things that you have said. But in the end, if somebody's writing a book about you, what is it that you want to be defined in that book about who is the real Rob Parker?
It was not so much my career. I've been a trailblazer from a couple standpoints. I was the first African-American to cover the Cincinnati Reds back in 1993. Okay. Travel with the team every game. 1991, I should say, after they won the World Series in 1990. I was the first Black sports columnist at the Detroit Free Press. When the paper hired me, the paper was 161 years old.
Wow.
I was the first Black sports columnist at Newsday in New York, where I grew up. I'm from New York. So, I look at myself as a pioneer from those kind of things, the accomplishments. But if you really looked at my career, it's more about me being a mentor to a lot of people in the business. I take great pride in that. I'm a college professor at USC. Wow. So for me, my legacy is about the people I've helped along the way, help them get into the business, help them nurture them while they're in the business. They can pick up the phone, call me, whatever it is, to find out about stuff. And I'm not throwing names out, but I helped mentor Stephen A. when he first got into the business. Wow. Mark Spears from ESPN. Darren Haynes is a big sportscaster in Washington, D.C. These are all people who I've met throughout the years. Chris Broussard I met in 1992 as well. And my only point is that that's what you want to leave behind. It's not so much of what I've done in my career, which is fine, and I'm very proud of the things that I've done. And if you work 35 years, you're going to have some bumps in the road. The bumps don't define you. There's good and there's bad, but for the most part, I think people will look back and look at some of the people that I've helped along the way, and that'll be my legacy.
Man, that's awesome, man. I mean, like you said, being a true service to others. Thank you so much, Rob. I hope that our listeners learn a little bit more about you today. I'm pretty sure Fidel will go ahead and close this out for us.
Yes, and I actually do have one last question. I want to ask you about Tony La Russa being hired by the White Sox a couple of days ago. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I think it's the most ridiculous hire, and Tony La Russa is a Hall of Famer. He retired on top, won a championship with the St. Louis Cardinals. He's 76 years old. The White Sox have this young team full of swag and different kind of guys. I just see that there'll be a disconnect. This to me reeks of like good old boy because they feel comfortable with him. They know him. He worked there before. There are guys who have put in, time. Marcus Thames is the batting coach for the Yankees. He's looking for his first opportunity. What about him? Ron Washington took the Texas Rangers to the World Series, right? And they didn't win, but where's his second chance? Another chance to be a manager. Bo Porter was with the Astros when they were terrible. What about Bo Porter? I could just give you names and different stuff. To hire a 76-year-old guy is just, to me, is mind-boggling in this day and age. And I'm going to paint you the picture of what I see that's going to happen on opening day. The White Sox are going to take the field in Chicago. Tony La Russa is going to stand up, walk to the top of the dugout step, and look around, and he's going to yell out on the field, "Hey, you kids, get off my lawn!"
Yeah, when I saw that on my phone, I was like, wait, I was like, I had a double look, I had to blink my eyes. I was like, what? You hired Tony La Russa. Oh, that's crazy. Hey, Rob, appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, so we really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yep, we'll do it. And maybe after the football season or like in the playoffs start, if you want to get me on for a little expanded, we talk some NFL playoffs, I'll be glad to come back then. That sounds good, guys.
Yes, sir. We'll catch up with you down the road. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Good luck to y'all. Remember, work hard if you really want to get into this business, because the biggest thing is that it's very competitive, and a lot of guys, if you just half-ass it, you're not going to make it. There's a lot of people who want to do this for a living. You got to work hard, got to do your homework, and it's okay, have a take, but back it up with facts. So even if people disagree, people can disagree with me, but I think I make a compelling argument so that they can at least understand why I got to that point. How did I get here? What's the thinking behind it?
Yeah.
When I call Tom Brady the luckiest of all time, I got to give you examples to tell you why I think he's been lucky. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just can't say it and not back it up.
All right, Rob. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right, guys.